no traps in the deck. I'll just go over monsters first.
We are here with Garrett once more at our local tournament that he won again. What'd you play today?
Infernoid, Synthal Spoil, Fiendsmith, with Ken and Gen in it. So we're running 4 different engines.
As we've named ifs.
Ifs, yeah, big ifs, true.
So, whenever you're ready for the deck profile.
For sure. Okay, so we're gonna cover the Noid names first. There's a lot of them because I don't think you can really play Infernoid with a small amount of names. You kind of have to just go in it. You're gonna draw some bricks when you draw them. That's just the deck. So we'll start with the best Infernoid to draw. You have 3 Decatron. We have, this is like one of your only normal summons in the deck, but even then you might not even see them. We have 2 Antra. We're gonna be playing 2 of most of the names, just because you don't want to, like, if you draw it, you want to be able to mill it as well. So you don't want it to be like a Garnet. So 2 Antra, 2 Pyramid, 2 Harmadic, 2 Petrulia. The only exception is Piety. Piety is probably the worst card to both draw, so I played it 1. 2 Sajet, 2 Saitsamas, 2 Atondel, 2 Deviati, and then this rule is only broken for 1 other card, and that is Anonku. So I actually play 3 Anonku. The reason for that is if you open Anonku or Decatron plus any other Noid plus any other way to fuse, you can make a 10 material Tiara on turn 1, which hand loops your opponent basically. So it's pretty strong to draw for that because it's the best banish off of evil. So it's actually okay to open Anonku.
Were you able to do the hand loop today?
I did, yeah. In my final round, I started comboing off and my opponent was like, are you gonna Tiara hand loop me? I said, yep. He's like, can I see the hand? I showed him the hand. He said, I open no hand traps, and we just went immediately game 2. So I feel bad for it, but, like, you know, for historically what was a blind second deck, it's nice to be able to have some insane win conditions going first if your opponent really is like, yeah, go off. Which a lot of people are doing right now. They're just playing board breakers, so it's pretty strong to just have that in your back pocket.
Gotta love board breakers.
Yes. As far as some of the non-Noid names, like I said earlier, I'm playing Gen and Ken. The deck doesn't really have a normal summon other than Decatron, but you're playing 60 cards in the deck, so, you know, may as well find another. 3 copies again to summon out Ken, which is draw 2, discard 1, and the discard in this deck is completely negligible because you're probably just pitching an Infernoid. 3 copies of Diabellstar. I don't know why people think this is a Snake Eye card. It's an Infernoid card. You send an Infernoid from hand to grave, and you get original, which summons Decatron out from the deck.
I'm pretty sure that card's a Snake Eye.
No, it's an Infernoid card. Speaking of Infernoid cards, we have 3 Fiendsmith Engraver. You get used to seeing this guy, that's all I can say. But he does a lot more for this deck than he does for other decks because of the extra deck access he allows. Is extremely strong for giving you access to your fusion monsters, which I'll show in a second. And then 1 copy of Lurie, which obviously I'm playing the Tract. So, and funny,
Lurie,
right? So Fabled Lurie is actually fine in this deck to even draw once again because you really don't have a normal summon. So half the time you're just normal summoning Lurie, and you're like, okay, anyway. The other half of this deck is just power spells basically. So as far as the engine, we play 3 Wanted. 2 Tract. Could play 3, but 2 was fine. I felt like I had enough access to the Fiendsmith engine with like the 6 total cards and then the extra deck access that can bridge you into it. We do place 2 Dark Fusion. This is just polymerization with an upside, so it makes your fusions untargetable when you summon them. So to help play through some interruption, like a Infect Veiler or something on Evil. And then play 3 Void Imagination. This is also just polymerization. but going second, it should all fusion, so it's extremely good. And then as far as non-engine goes, playing no hand traps in the main deck at all. So we're playing 3 Super Poly, 3 Triple Tactics Talent, which is also always live because of the Ken and Gan usually, and then 3 Droplet. Super Poly and Droplet, the cost to send is usually completely negligible because you're playing Infernoid, so they love to be in the grave. And then for the numerous amount of 1-ofs, because Konami hates this deck, limited Monster Gate, limited Reasoning, limited Instant Fusion, limited 1-for-1. I don't know what the problem with these cards are. They can all come back.
To 2?
You know, bring back grass, for sure, for sure. And then some searchable 1-ofs. We play 1 Void Breach. This is great in your grind game. Plus, it makes the hand loop easier. You can only do it with 3 cards instead of 4 because this adds back one of your guys. And then Reignition. Once again, it's just searchable, helps your grind game. If you get this into the grave in turn 1, you get to return all your banished Infernoids basically to the graveyard and just combo off from there. And then Original. And then my fun of is Fire Recovery. The card didn't, I never drew the card today, but I did mill it a few times, and it's just a good mill because it's just a free draw 1 while recycling some materials. Especially if you hit some of your Infernoids early on into your combo and you need them back in the deck, this is a really good way to get them back there. So some stuff that'll make a little bit more sense now is in the extra deck. So we play Anima if Decatron gets negated, or if you have Void Imagination on the field, all your guys are level 1, so Anima's fine. We play Requiem, Sequence. Sequence in this deck does a lot more than in like Snake Eye, or even really Yubel, because you have a lot of actual fusion targets besides just the Fiendsmith stuff. So we'll go quickly talk about those. You have Aerial Eater. This card just sends a Fiend from deck to grave on summon, so you can shuffle back a Lurie plus a Engraver into an Aerial Eater to send Decatron to get you access to your Infernoid line, and then you can climb into Princess, bring back the Decatron, and go into a Flood. We play Necroquip Princess so that our Engraver is a 1-card combo. And then as far as the Infernoid fusions, we have Evil and Tierra. Fun fact, you can also make these off of Fiendsmith Sequence. So I'll talk a little bit more about Tierra here in a second. As far as the rest of the links, we have Moon of the Close Sky, Plan B. Yama, if you've got an abundance of bodies, just link climbing with him is a good way to set up disruption in your opponent's turn, because he banishes himself from the grave when a card is destroyed, and then Princess triggers that effect, so you can technically use Flood effect to banish a card on your opponent's turn, which is really strong. Underworld Goddess, because we're playing the link too. And then Super Poly targets. Garura would already be in the deck because in Tierra effect descend from extra deck anyway. So it's kind of like 2 birds with 1 stone. And then sometimes you just have an extra amount of bodies on the field and you have a lot of access to 6s in this deck, so a Caesar is like fine, just to protect yourself from Nibiru or just as an end board piece. So a little bit more about Sequence and what I was talking about with the Tierra effect. So one of the big things here is that if you find any way to polymerization on your first turn, you can special summon out Evil, which takes any 2 Infernoids. And then if you banish the Anonku, you get to send 10 Infernoids with different names. Then all you need to do is link climb into the Sequence using the Fiendsmith cards. And then Sequence can shuffle all 10 of the back that you just sent to make a 10 material Tierra, which hand loops and extra deck. And hand loops your opponent and then makes them send 3 cards from their extra deck and deck to the graveyard, which is essentially an FTK.
That's ridiculous.
So if your opponent doesn't open any interaction or makes you go first because, you know, the deck is trying to usually blind second, you can catch a lot of people off guard and just win on the spot with that.
I would have scooped game 1 too.
Yeah, I'm not surprised. He was like, yeah, got nothing. I'm sorry. He wanted the shame of me ripping his hand. Side deck I'm still working on. So like I said, I don't play any hand traps in the main. I play some in the side, but they're not conventional hand traps like Nib or Droll. You can't play Nib in this deck because as soon as you do, you can't summon any of your Infernoids really. So instead, we're playing some other things that don't mess with Monster Gate, like Kurikara. She's a good board breaker and a level 1, so she's a great low level. Playing 3 Malcharmi Perelia. It's just a draw card. The more cards you can see in your grip, honestly, in this deck, the better. Especially with like droplets, super poly, and just seeing some of your power spells that can just push through so many interactions. And that's the same reason we're running Fiendsmith. So we got a lot of cards that fix our hand and help us dig into those power spells when we're going second. Going first, on the other hand, this deck is very scary post-sighting. So we play 3 Void Banishment. This card locks you into Infernoids for the turn. That's why I don't main deck it, because it doesn't really do a whole lot for you. You're searching out Void Feast with this going first, and this is basically, if this card resolves, you get 2 negates plus a DD Crow on your side of the field in addition to your end board. So it's very scary going first, even if you don't set up an end board, or if it doesn't look like you have much of one, Feast can be an end board on its own. And just having that searchable is very, very strong. And then 3 Skill Drain. I will say, to defend Skill Drain a little bit in this deck, it can use it in a way that most decks can't. You can set up an entire end board, and because all your guys tribute themselves for cost to activate their effects to negate summons or cards or effects, they also bypass Skill Drain. So your end board is completely unaffected by this card.
Yeah, but what about your opponent?
They are completely affected by Skill Drain, usually. Skill Drain did not come up today, but boy, I tell you, Malcharmi does. If you don't have your playset of this, pick this up. Drew like 5 cards against a Snake Eye player today, and started off my turn with like a 10 card hand, and then just pushed through all their interaction. It was no problem. And that is the 60 card Infernoid Diabel 1, the original Sinful Spoiled Fiendsmith Kenningen pile deck.
Anyone you'd like to shout out?
On this one, not particularly. I've just been building Infernoids on the side for myself, and finally with the Fiendsmith cards, I felt like the deck could hold its own. So I've just been testing it out and changing it as I go, and this version has been the most successful so far.
Well, congratulations on your winnings.
Thank you.